Good now, revolutionaries, and welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show.
That's cool.
It's a lovely jingle.
Welcome back, Tuesday, April 8th. We're so glad you're here. And we are here with our friends, Daniel and Michael. Gentlemen, welcome all the way from the internet representing DePIN Hub. We're so glad to have you here. I really hope, Daniel, that people tune in to the video stream so that they can see your like super degen glasses. Where did you get those, man? Those are killer.
I think it was like a $2 glasses I got somewhere for another project video that we're doing in the
cheaper
past.
the better.
The cheaper, the better. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. The action hero pose. I have right now. We are so enamored with GPT and all the cool new stuff that it can do. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is starting to make more little promo merch for our show. I saw one the other day. Do you guys listen to The Chopping Block at all? Another great crypto podcast in our space. They just published, they've been going crazy with the GPT memes. And they just published this fantastic like action figure pack of all their hosts that come with like cute little accessories. And we might have to do a version for all of our guests because yours would definitely have to have like a little degen pair of glasses. So we've got a lot of news to get into today. We have the market manipulation of yesterday just after the show was over. It seems like things went from bad to crazy to worse, and we're going to talk about it. But first, I do want to remind you that we are live Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. If this is the first time you're seeing us, please come back. We would be glad to have you here for helpful news, commentary, answers to your crypto question with our expert friends and guests. Today, Daniel and Michael have agreed to join us to talk a little about what to do in a bear market, how to spot scams and schemes, and give their take on why DePIN is the way of the crypto consumer's future. But first, guys, can you just give us a quick 30-second introduction, who you are and what you do? Daniel, will you go first?
Yeah. My name is Daniel. Let me take these off because I don't feel comfortable in them. It's too degen. Well, I'm Daniel. I'm the co-founder of Hotspotty and DePIN Hub. I've been in the crypto space since 2011, and only in 2020 I actually decided to go full time into crypto, building Hotspotty, which is a fleet management platform for the project Helium. For the people who don't know, they're trying to build this like IoT network, decentralized network where people actually deploy those hardwares. I was the first person actually outside of the US to build a device. Because I built it myself, I got too excited. I really understood the idea of like crypto and decentralized infrastructure that then became DePIN. And then after that, we saw the space growing. Now DePIN is something that I wake up every morning very excited to grow the space because I see the potential that it has. And with that, we built DePIN Hub, which is like the aggregator of everything that happens in the DePIN space. But we're going to talk more about that before I continue my long TLDR.
No, absolutely. We'll get into the weeds, and I'm looking forward to it. And Michael, how do you come to be part of this story?
Well, okay, I don't think I'm on the video on TikTok, but I don't know. I think the audio is there. Is the audio there?
Yeah, everybody can hear you. You're like a ghost in the room. And if people want to see Michael and Daniel's beautiful faces, you can catch them on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, anywhere else. You'll see these guys and get the visuals, but they hear you loud and clear.
Okay, you all missed the degen glasses from Daniel, but he might put them back on later, depending on the vibe. But yeah, I'm Michael. So I was actually so Daniel was talking about fleet management or host management, because one of the things that Helium did that was enabled through Hotspotty, through our original product, was like, if you wanted to find 500 people that had amazing locations to put these little like Wi-Fi hotspots in, you could do that, but then you'd have all these issues around like, how much do you pay the people? Is it online? Is it offline? Like, how do you track it? All the analytics. We built that. So I was one of those early hosts. And so Daniel and his co-founder Max were actually crawling around on the roof of my house, putting up these hotspots during COVID, like running around like they're like little ninjas, figuring out how to make a whole bunch of money while everyone was just stuck at home. And so I come from a telecom background. I used to do like enterprise sales kind of related to telecom. So I had a lot of ideas too about the network and how to scale it. Eventually they invited me to come on board, and now I oversee everything on the more like sales, marketing, community, kind of finance side, so more of the commercial side of Hotspotty. So I'm a business guy.
What a great pitch to be like under the roof, and these guys are just clanking and banging around, and they're like, building the future up here. You want to join
Yeah.
us?
Exactly. Yeah, it's hard to say no. It's very alluring.
Very
That was
cool.
exciting.
Well, I want to invite everyone in the audience. If you've got specific questions that you'd like us to ask our guests from DePIN Hub today, please do let us know. We see all your comments and we enjoy every one of them. They asked for us to get on your roof, Tori says. Boy, I hope so. We're going to get into what they do a little bit later.
They did.
And how you can participate, get involved. But first, I really do want to talk about some of this news that has come out yesterday. Yesterday on the show, we exhausted the conversation of tariffs. We talked a lot about what they are, when they can be used well, who they're going to affect. It was a really multifaceted, nuanced conversation, and everybody played a big part of it. But less than an hour after our show closed, we started to see a number of rumors come out that the White House was considering a 90-day tariff pause. Let us know in the comments if you saw this. At 10:10 a.m. Eastern Time, the rumors emerged. At 10:15 a.m., CNBC picks it up and reports that Trump is considering a 90-day pause on tariffs for all countries except China. 3 minutes later at 10:18, the S&P 500 had added over $3 trillion in market cap from its low. And at 10:25, still just like 15 minutes into this thing, reports emerged that the White House is unaware of Donald Trump considering any kind of 90-day pause. CNBC then reports that the 90-day tariff pause headlines were incorrect, and the White House officially called the tariff pause headlines fake news. And by 10:40 a.m., the S&P 500 had erased $2.5 trillion of market cap from its high just 22 minutes prior. It was the literal roller coaster chart of the stock market, and I'm pretty sure it's unprecedented. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that. Have we, Will?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we've ever seen anything like it before.
This is a
but
gross misrepresentation.
as you're going through that, and I remember looking at the timestamps of all the news and just like the speed at which the manipulation took place. Also, the original rumor came from an anonymous account being run by somebody who had was ready to set a very large long, I'm sure. But
I mean, seriously.
But like this kind of thing can only happen in the modern day. Like you couldn't have this happen in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, anything short of the internet and smartphones, because the speed at which information gets out there now, it's just so fast. And if one account that's big on Twitter just happens to hit the like button on it, God forbid they hit repost.
Yeah, exactly right.
Then it can take off like wildfire. And, everyone wants to be first to the news. We're content creators. We feel that urge to be first to the news as well. And then it flies and $3 trillion get added and then $2.5 trillion get wiped out in the span of about, an episode of SpongeBob.
Yeah, it's almost like if you blink, you miss it.
Yeah,
Some
exactly.
internal people are really getting a lot of money from this.
Yep. Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
We talked a lot about that yesterday in terms of, the people who stand to benefit the most in times of instability are not the people who are liquidating their bank accounts to buy groceries. It's the people who, they've had the money shored up. They're in a position because their business has been profitable because they own assets. It's a very stark contrast between the people who will do really well and the people who will struggle. And it's unfortunate. A lot of those folks are our viewers.
Yeah. And insider trading as well, I would say, right? That we don't.
Oh, yeah,
100%.
undoubtedly.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way in hell that anonymous account on Twitter is just some like random schmuck that took out a long and was like, let's see if this works. Like that.
But could you imagine? He's just like, oh my God. It's just some dude. He's just like, what have I done? I am God. Yeah.
I mean, that would be hilarious.
It would be hilarious. Probably not reality.
That's kind of like,
blown away if that was something other than a true insider who was like, all right, here we go. And then, of course, the fact that you said it was CNBC that ran with it.
Yep.
I mean, do you remember, what was it, like 3 or 4 weeks ago that AIXBT just like made some shit up and Cointelegraph took it and ran with it? And
oh yeah.
and then everyone was like, "Hey, AXBT, did you just make that up?" And it's like, "I'll never tell." And it was like 100%. It just trolled everybody. And of course, it led to, you know, a market move as well. So it's just these bigger publications are in this death battle to be relevant, especially when you compare legacy media to independent media. And how do you stay relevant? You break something first, and you know, ask for forgiveness rather than permission, right? So
Well,
why
as
not?
long as people click and you get your advertising dollars in, you know.
100%. Yep. Because I mean, think about that in review. In any world other than the upside down we're currently living in, think about that in review. Why did you run this story that ended up contributing to a massive piece of market manipulation? I saw it on Twitter. Oh, okay. From like a government account? No. Oh, okay. From who? This guy, Mike. Oh, okay. Any ties to? Nope. Got it. All right, sweet. And then what? This becomes like major national news. It's insane. Like the lack of due diligence that goes into reporting now, just because of this race to break something before content creators get a hold of it, which you know is likely going to be a better story anyway. Although then you have to parse through a whole different kind of bullshit. It's just crazy to me. Like you said, Evan. It's just flagrant manipulation, and someone got a real nice payday from that.
Yeah, and the last name, according to Moist Mike, was Bloomberg, the tweet person. So that helps when you got a name that has some credibility. Of course, the only other newsworthy bit that I feel like came out of that is yesterday the Fed had their closed door meeting. We don't know what happened there, but we know that Donald Trump was anxious for them to do something. He tweeted yesterday, interest rates are down. The slow-moving Fed should cut rates, and continued to instigate around the time of the meeting, calling for more action. But I don't know that there was anything particularly newsworthy aside from that happened.
A lot of deep breathing.
There wasn't. Yeah.
A lot of deep breathing. And I think our audience is pretty tired, honestly, of tariff talk.
Dude,
Jason
I'm tired.
over on TikTok said, listen, let's talk about what we're going to do to build the future. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Really quickly, though, Will, I do want to hear a take that I know you had about thinking that we're going to see stocks recover before crypto. Is that what you were saying this morning?
Well, that's what I wanted to do is I wanted to just spend maybe like 3 minutes just talking about like why it looks like from a technical analysis standpoint, if you're just doing TA and charting, you're not thinking anything else, why stocks seem to be in a better position to bounce than Bitcoin right now. And it's just like two things I'll talk about, and then I'll share my screen real quick.
That sounds great.
But it's one is you have stocks, they have completed a bearish breakout, a full breakout of a bearish pattern, whereas Bitcoin was really just kind of started its. And so stocks have completed that bearish move. At the same time, it's sitting right at support, but Bitcoin's also sitting right at key support. And at the same time, and here's the third thing, I know I said two, but I guess it's three.
Lies.
Is that you have a bunch of gaps higher up on the stock market's chart, like much higher up, like significantly higher, like 10% higher up, 8% higher up, which is a lot for the stock market. And for Bitcoin, you have it up, it's by like an additional like $2,000 in Bitcoin's price. So let me share my screen really quickly.
Go for it.
Share my entire screen. Yes, please. So here's Bitcoin, right? Or sorry, not Bitcoin. Excuse me. This is the stock market. This is the S&P 500.
It's rough.
Excuse me. Yeah. So what I want to direct your attention towards first is these orange lines here. This line right down here, these lines up. This is called a bear flag. Bear flag is a bearish pattern. It tends to break to the bear side, right? And that's what we had for the stock market. And this box I have down here is the target of that breakout. So for the stock market, you can see we are right in that general pocket zone. It has completed the breakout of this very large macro bearish trend. It's right on this support line from our Fibonacci retracement tool, which if I back out here, just so you guys are aware, it's this big colorful box that you set targets by measuring from the bottom of a big move to the top of a big move. You get these areas of support, okay? And now you can see these big gaps in these candles. These are what I was referring to before. These are gaps on your chart. And we have, some gaps very high up for the S&P 500. Even so far on the 4-hour chart is this yellow line. So this could say, hey, the bear move ended. And in the short term, we could even come up and fill this gap. It may be even a more bullish scenario, even this gap, right? But there's a lot of potential bullish scenarios here. And if you come to Bitcoin at the same time, this is its bear flag. And it has really not completed at all its bearish breakout. In fact, its target of its bearish breakout is down here, somewhere between $60,000 to $50,000. So that immediately tells us that Bitcoin is not in the same kind of position to potentially bounce as strongly as the stock market, because the stock market completed the bearish breakout of its bear flag. And this could still potentially see further lows. And then lastly, if we come to the futures chart, if it loads and doesn't blind everybody with the white, the only gap we have on the chart is right here, this green line I have. And as I said before, it's just above current price action, whereas the stock market has some that are much higher up. And we are also being suppressed on the futures chart by a key line of resistance of the 200-day exponential moving average. So this is why I say right now, stocks look to be in a better position to bounce than Bitcoin. And what I want the audience to take away from this isn't, okay, cool, maybe I should do a long on stocks. No, I don't want you to do that. I want you to go, okay, what did Will just go through on the chart here? Will said there's a completion of a bearish move. And this is vice versa too. If there's a completion to the bullish move and you're at support or you're at resistance, and at the same time, there's bullish gaps and bearish gaps, you can start to feel confident from a TA standpoint. You've hit those three things: support or resistance, check. Completion of a recent large move, check. There are gaps on the futures chart or on the stock market chart that line up with a recovery, check, right? And now you can start to potentially, hopefully feel confident about taking a long or a short position or buying spot or whatever you want to do, right? But those are the three check boxes that you're able to hit. And I just want to impart that lesson onto people. The next step from there is, where are we economically? Where are we with the latest things that are, driving the market, right? That's the next piece. Purely talking about TA and charting, I wanted to make sure we talked about that.
Beautiful. Thank you for making the complex clear, Mr. William Watson. It's one of those times in the market that it's always a great time to build your skills, but it's especially important right now. If you are interested in learning more about how to read charts, how to interpret the data that they give you, like Will does, then we've got a great resource for you. First of all, check out the Discord, discord.gg/riseup. It's totally free to join. The only thing missing is you. We've got a technical analysis channel in there where a lot of people who do this for fun, if you can imagine that, hang out together, ask questions, share their work. And then Will has taught a technical analysis course. You can find it at our website, theriseupmorningshow.com. It makes it simple. Even I saw and understood, maybe for the first time, what I was looking at when it came to Fibonacci's and all that stuff. You can learn it. But the good news is, if you're not into it, you don't have to. There are a lot of things you can do when the market is down to up your skills, up your knowledge, and set yourself up for a better future. And that's one of the reasons we're excited to have these guys here. I think it's a great time to talk a little more about DePIN, this emerging sector of the crypto space. What is DePIN, and why is it relevant to everybody watching the show today, guys?
You want to take it, Michael?
Oh man, I feel like that's like the golden question to set you up, Daniel. That's like you
I
were
can
getting
do it.
excited before. I think you should. Yeah, you take it.
Yeah, let's go. I think I like to think that DePIN is the narrative in crypto that everybody's been waiting for a long time to add validity to crypto and Web3. Because we always talk about DeFi, but DeFi a lot of times is like money, liquidity moving from one side to the other, and DePIN is this thing that actually can, I like to say, like, change people's lives. It's the narrative where you have so much idle resources in your home. Like, for example, you have a spare hard disk in your computer, you have a car. So there's a lot of ways that people can use that idle resource in order to build some sort of like goods, right? So basically, in the short term, DePIN, which stands for Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Network, is just like people-powered networks that utilize their idle resources. I mean, that sounds very complicated, but basically what it is I like to give some examples that make things very, very clear.
Yeah,
there's a project called Hive Mapper. You have your car, you drive every day to work, you install this dash camera in your car. You know, you can use a dash camera like for security reasons, etc. But what this project is doing is utilizing your car and this dash camera to record and take pictures everywhere people go. And they're actually building a up-to-date, a daily updated version of Google Street View. So Google has these cars that cost, I don't know, $600,000. And instead of like relying on like a few cars that need to drive once every 3 years in the place, they decide, okay, what if people actually are driving every day all around the world anyway? So what they decided to do, like, we're going to sell these devices. People are going to, you know, put in their car while they're driving. And with that, we're going to be building this Google Street View that's updated very frequently. And we're going to be able to sell this data like as a product to customers. And every time we sell this to a customer, we reward those users in our token. So I think that's the beauty of crypto, is that of DePIN in general, is that is a way to kind of like finish the chicken and egg problem, that you build this dash camera, and people gonna start earning tokens, which maybe not worth anything, but people who believe in the project start growing up and growing, and then collecting a lot of like money from the products they sell, and this money basically returned back to the people, and with that people earn passive income. So I think that's basically how we started with Helium back in 2020. So just to have an idea what we were doing then, this project wants to build like a wireless network around the city, right? And what is the way that people used to do until, you know, very recently? I want to do this like network around anywhere. I need to buy all the equipment. I need to hire people to do the installation. I need to have people maintaining this. What if we flip this whole game and actually random people are going to buy the device, people that I don't know. They're going to find themselves location to install. And I'm going to do is going to be the company generating the code and maintaining everything, similar to Uber, right? Uber doesn't own any cars. They don't have any employees that are driving for them. But instead of paying people in fiat, in cash, we're going to be paying people in crypto. And there's this idea that if this project grows, the tokens that I have right now is going to grow, similar to like people holding Bitcoin, right? And this actually worked very well in 2020 with Helium. So the project started when we started, it was around 4,000 devices. It looks like a little bit like this. This is like a little Raspberry Pi with a little antenna on top. So what we started doing around the city, like we bought a bunch of those devices. We call all our friends, and then Michael was one of them that, okay, Michael, we have a great location, a massive rooftop. Let's install this antenna in our place. And this project started taking shape to the point that they deploy 1 million of those devices around the world. It was the fastest growth of any kind of infrastructure rollout in history. In about two years, they deployed 1 million devices around the world. And we made a lot of money from that. In the point that when we started, it was very early. So we were very lucky to do that, because we are not necessarily looking for making money at that time. But we were early enough in the project that when the project took off, it was very profitable. And actually, that's how we decided to start the company. The money that we built from this, we bootstrapped the company for 2 years. So that was like super, super exciting. And what Helium or HiveMap are doing is now something that we call DePIN. It's getting a lot of traction from 1 to 5 projects in the beginning. Now there's like hundreds in so many different areas, from like decentralized storage to web cameras to weather stations, you name it. And that's something that we decided to then build DePIN Hub, because there's so many new projects coming all the time. Some good projects, some bad projects, some scammy projects. So we try to talk to everyone, understand, and bring these opportunities to the masses, basically. Because I think DePIN is the narrative that's going to onboard new people into Web3, because it's also bringing money from outside of crypto into crypto. What's, I think, different a lot of times from like DeFi, that just like, okay, people invest in some token expecting to return the investment in terms like selling afterwards. I mean, yeah, I guess I can keep on talking about this, but
no, we have lots of questions. It's okay. That's thorough but concise. I just wanted to ask Michael if you had anything to add specifically about DePIN Hub.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I think Daniel just gave like an amazing kind of like walkthrough of everything super quick. Yeah, very helpful. So if you want to go deeper, if you're sensing Daniel's passion, he's very passionate about this stuff. He's like, probably one of the top 10 sort of influencer, thought leader, KOL people in DePIN globally. So speaking all the time, sometimes doing like 5-6 engagements when we go to a trade fair, like when we go to like Token 2049 in Dubai. I'm like, where's Daniel? He's like on stage again. But if you want to go deeper yourself, we built this platform that he mentioned called DePINHub.io. And essentially the idea is to do what Daniel was saying, to help you navigate the entire thing, because there are bad projects out there. There are scammy projects out there, but there's also some really good projects out there. And so we actually talked to the founders of almost every project that you will see on DePIN Hub. And I think at some point in time, we've spoken literally to every single one. With some of them, we've gone deeper. With other ones, we've had a little more like Telegram, Discord-based chats, right? But we've done DD on all of them. And what we've done is we've used AI and all kinds of other tools to aggregate all kinds of data, from like social metrics to token prices to where to buy the hardware, to all kinds of other stuff. So you can do a really quick DD yourself and then figure out different ways to get involved. You can literally buy devices, you can track token prices, you can look at rankings of investors, you can read like deep dive research articles. Daniel has a podcast. I kind of oversee our newsletter. We have a big newsletter with like 140,000 DePIN enthusiasts. There's just tons of stuff there. And now we've also launched something called a NAS, which stands for Node as a Service. So if you want to get involved, but you're like, look, man, I don't have a car. I don't want to like put stuff on my roof or whatever. Maybe this is a bit too like hands-on. I want to just do more passive crypto trading. There's also these software-based nodes, which are essentially like a validator node. Like if you know anything about how like Ethereum and these networks are set up, you have to kind of validate transactions on the network and keep it safe and secure. You can also do that in DePIN. So you're literally just purchasing a license. You don't have to physically do anything. And then we have a platform to manage it. So you don't have to know about servers and running Linux commands and being a programmer. You can just delegate. It's called delegating the license to us. We run it. We ensure it has like perfect uptime, and we do all the updates and all that stuff, so you don't have to do anything. We take a very small reward share, like 5% of the rewards, and the other 95% just goes to you. So it's just passive income basically. So we launched that about 4 months ago, and we're quite excited about that as well. So that's DePIN Hub in a quick overview.
Great. Go ahead, Will. I see you going.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, what would you say is the like most useful? I feel like for someone coming to your site first, to DePIN Hub, what do you think is like the first thing that people should explore as like the most useful? Or I guess it kind of depends on what people are looking for. But I'm just kind of thinking as each person in this audience, potentially goes and explores your website, where would you like to direct them to first?
Yeah,
Dan, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I think
and I've got the screen share up. Will, can you throw it up on TikTok so people can see?
Sure
I
thing.
can show it.
Yeah, I mean, for example, if you go to the projects page, there's a filter on the side that you can say, okay, I want to actually check the projects that are storage based, or what kind of resource do I have at home that I can start making some passive income. So I think that's something that people can do. Like, I have like a very expensive like graphic card. I can go for AI. I have a spare computer, compute, sensors, IoT, etc. You name it. I think people, depending on what they want to do, right? Like you said, we have a podcast that we release every week since November 2023. So it's been like talking to founders, understanding the project, trying to like simplify the content and what they're trying to do. Because a lot of projects, sometimes they can seem very complicated, but once you like simplify the idea, and then this way you can actually import other people in the project. Like for example, there's a podcast, we have like an e-commerce shop. We just launched like earn section that you can have like, it's still quite early, but the idea is like you go to that page and you see everything that you can start earning immediately, or discount codes and things like that. I mean, we've been building basically in DePIN for the past 4 years. So it's been a lot of like knowledge and data that we've been collecting over the past to get to the point that we are now. Like, for example, right now, like if you see this page, you have SkyX, which is like a really, really nice weather station that you can employ in your house. And we just kind of deal with them like, okay, if you buy one with our link, you get $40 off, and so on. There's like a lot of other projects that we're getting into. I would invite people to, of course, go to the website, DePINHub.io, subscribe to the newsletter, because there's a lot of cool content that we do every couple of weeks, every week, or every couple of weeks, depending on how the projects are coming. Explore the website, make sure to make an account as well. There's a lot of cool things coming up soon with like, we're doing like this whole gamification platform that people can interact with the platform and get like rewards and miners, right? Because I think we like Michael was saying, we've been talking to so many projects that it's quite easy for us to get to like one DePIN project. Like, okay, I really like your device. Like, oh, look at this golden hotspot. Can you give away 3 of those devices for our users? Most companies say yes. So we're trying to leverage the connections. And okay, let's build like a exciting community. By engaging, you're just gonna start getting free devices that can bring you passive income.
So someone in our audience, a couple of people in our audience have mentioned that this all sounds really good. And when we've talked about this before, we've talked about a couple of different projects here. But one of the criticisms we have of DePIN as a sector generally is that it seems like it only benefits people who are early, and that a lot of these projects only have a product to sell you that is a token or the means to acquire it, as activity and interest around whatever network solution they're building fizzles and dies. Helium at its all-time high had a price of, $53 a token. The emissions rate was great. You could earn back what you paid for a miner until you couldn't anymore.
Yes.
And then the network, they've had a pivot. They're maybe a different case, but I've heard similar criticisms of, I noticed you had Demo on your website, or we have a friend who used to work at Aether, and I picked on him all the time about that. Like, hey man, what are you guys building? You're selling people the promise of a token that will go up in value, as opposed to a service or product that people really want to use, and therefore which makes it valuable for somebody to own part of the network infrastructure for. What are your thoughts and responses to that? Do you have
I agree. I don't disagree at all with this. Like, the thing that there's so many different projects with different founders from different countries. You can't really generalize all of them. But I agree that I think for me, one of the red flags when I talk to projects is if they focus too much on the token, that they don't talk about where's the demand side, actually who are going to use the network. Like, for example, Demo, you mentioned, they sell this like $99 little car OBD connectors. And actually I like it because I can check the data from my own car. But like, I want to see them actually collecting all this data and selling the data, and then converting the money that they sell back into the token. I think that's something that we can see on the projects. But yeah, 100% agree with what you said. It goes into the due diligence of the people that need to understand the projects. Like I mentioned, there are so many projects that do different ways, right? Like there's projects called GeoNet, that's like you're building this like antenna that's helping optimize geolocation, like GPS for like the centimeter precision. And then if you start learning a little bit more about the project, you can see like how they're actually growing on the demand side. Like they're a B2B platform. They're actually doing a lot of sales, and then they're converting these sales back into the people. But also one thing to understand in the way they work is like DePIN, usually it tries to incentivize being early, right? Because otherwise nobody would really jump on the new project, and you need to solve the chicken and egg situation. Like with Helium, for example, nobody's going to use an IoT network that doesn't exist. So there's no customers that are going to use this network. But also nobody, if all the money they're going to make in initially only comes from customers, nobody's going to install this device on Michael's home because there's nobody using it. So there's always this like chicken and egg situation. Mm-hmm. So the way that the Helium did is something called proof of coverage. It's like, instead of like just rewarding people by when people are using the network, I'm going to have these antennas talking to other antennas to verify their location, like doing some sort of proofing. And with that, I'm going to reward those people. And the idea is like on the long term, I'm going to reduce the proof of coverage rewards, and the rewards are going to be more from people coming from money outside of crypto into crypto by using the network. So I think it's like do a due diligence on the project, try to understand how they work on this sense, and try to figure out, is this something that you want to be involved or not? Because there's a lot of projects, like I mentioned before, they only focus on the crypto. Usually the founders are Web3, degen, and a lot of times these projects I see they don't have a long-term viability because the way that they're playing with the Web3. Another way to think is that I think good web like DePIN projects, you shouldn't expect a Lambo a month, right? I think the Helium case was a very unique case. It was like the first one, and there's like massive hype around it. But when we started, the price of the token was like 30 cents. And our goal was actually to make beer money at the end of the month and not, make more that we could start a company from that. You can expect to make too much money because there's no money coming from outside unless it's a hype, and a hype is something that only lasts until the cycle
It
ends.
lasts so long. Yep.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you said very early on in this was this idea of allowing people to capitalize on things that are already in their house, like laying around, like, existing idle hardware. And yet 99% of the DePIN projects I've seen require me to buy some multi-$100 hunk of whatever, and plop it on my shelf and create a new piece of idle hardware that ultimately doesn't really serve me. So this has kind of been one of my, there's a few things in crypto that I love desperately as an idea. DAOs, which have been largely used to farm people in pyramid schemes, and DePIN, which is an incredible idea that has largely been used to structure new types of MLMs and just get people to earn referral bonuses by selling more and more junk to more and more people. And it's like you pointed out, it feels to me like I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the parts that frustrate you, because there's no way that you work in DePIN without getting pissed off about that kind of thing. Just because, what's the point of it, right? The point of this as a particular niche inside of the industry is another stab at one of the ways that we are constantly being taken advantage of and milked for money. And yet people keep launching projects that no one is asking for, that provide a service no one wants to use, selling me a device nobody actually wants to buy, and not solving the problem, exacerbating the problem. So I'm just curious, you've got to be frustrated, especially as the curator of a place that tracks a bunch of these projects and tries to display information on it. Michael, I know you and I talked about some of your due diligence techniques.
Why are you laughing, Michael?
When you're going through these things. So
I'm just laughing because. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm just. I would like to take it there a little bit, because it's got to frustrate you at some point. I would assume. I would hope it does.
Yeah. I'm laughing because Daniel, we talk about this a lot, and every now and then, because obviously I'm behind the scenes with him at DePIN Hub, and Daniel's a very, very nice, friendly guy, and so he always seems happy. But there are certain projects, and then I'll be chatting with him afterwards. He's like, "Oh man, if I just had a button, like a bullshit button that I could just detect in the middle of these meetings, I would just be hitting it." He's like, "Another one of these storage projects that's doing the same. This guy says he's DePIN plus AI plus buzzword. He's like, give me a break." It's quite funny. So so I was just laughing as you were saying that. I was looking at Daniel thinking this is your chance, man. Go on your rant. Feel free, Daniel.
Yeah, no, it is true, right? Because in a way, this is an extremely exciting space, and I don't want to be seen as a hater or too critical to make the whole ecosystem bearish. But it's true. I mean, it's something that I'm a hardware engineer, and I've been in crypto for a long time. So a lot of times I try to understand these projects in the whole holistic way, and I can thoroughly see when I talk to the founder, like Mike was saying, that these guys they're just trying to extract value as soon as possible. And to agree with what you're saying, Alex, sometimes the hardware is very important, and also it's a very strong moat for that project, right? If sometimes they're building, if you want to do a weather station, for example, you need to have a device. I think projects that are doing, for example, decentralized storage, and they only do this through a device, that's BS, right? Because for example, I don't think it's 99% of the projects that have hardware. I agree with you. There's a lot of them that try to do as a way to make some extra income. But I think the best ones that I have, you can also bring your own device. They call it BYOD. Which is, for example, there's the first decentralized storage project that I use called Storage. They've been around since 2017, and you don't need to buy anything. You don't even need to buy tokens and stake it as a proof of stake or anything like that. You just buy a Raspberry Pi, external hard drive, and then you just keep it plugged in, providing this network. And the more people use your computer to store data, the more you're going to earn. You need to have a long-term growth in this project. And it's something that like I have a podcast with the founder, and it's very nice to see the way that the DePIN started being this kind of like, okay, it's decentralized, anyone can do the spare hardware they have at home. But slowly projects start realizing, actually, I can make some money if I build my own hardware, which is not necessarily required. And in some projects there is a mode. Sometimes it's like a bit of a BS in terms of like they want to do some extra funding with that. Sometimes it's valid, right? Like sometimes the projects would like you can either buy one, which is like plug and play, or you can just build your own, which is like quite technically challenging. But if you are a nerd like me, go ahead and do it. I think that's my favorite approach. But there's a lot of also projects right now that are trying to tackle one solution with either resources that we already have in your home. For example, there's a project called Accurest that they're building this decentralized serverless function, so like Amazon Lambda kind of thing. But instead of running this computing in Amazon servers, you're going to be using on people's cell phones. Like who here has a spare cell phone in their house that's been in a drawer for like years?
I've got 2 of them.
I got my old flip phone from high school.
Exactly. I mean, probably that's not going to work.
Probably not that one. Yeah,
Damn.
Those are cool again anyway.
Yeah. But like, for example, like I can get it here.
Daniel has a lot of stuff in that office.
Yeah. So this, like, for example, I have like I'm gonna have a DePIN manufacturing almost here in my office.
Yeah.
But like, for example, this is like a spare like Pixel 5 that I broke the screen.
Okay.
And then I'm just running like Accurest. So all I need to do is like install the software. It takes over the phone. And then people were like, I need to process this image for my website. They create like a function, and this function actually runs on my phone. So they managed to grow to like thousands and thousands of phones around the world.
Okay, I have a question about that, Daniel. So you mentioned like, I'm sort of building a checklist for our audience in my mind of like how to tell the good stuff from the crap. And on that checklist now is bring your own device, and kind of the things that we've talked about are incentive alignment. Is there an actual product? Bring your own device is going on that list. But now I'm kind of curious, how do I tell if a company like this has what we call proof in the pudding, like a feasible go-to-market strategy? One of our guests asked, like, how does storage make any money as a company from what they're doing? And it seems maybe it's kind of difficult, I think, for people to grasp this move from like, I own the infrastructure, I own the company, everything is centralized, of course it's profitable, to I own nothing, you provide everything. How are these companies making money? How do we judge whether their solution is viable or not? Just because a lot of people have this program on their phones doesn't necessarily mean that this company is going to be here tomorrow. What are some things you look at for that?
I mean, it's definitely a risk, right, that you have when you're trying to work with Web3 companies, especially like startups, and you're relying a lot of your infrastructure on a Web3. There's like, a Cash and Flux. There are companies that are trying to like take AWS, for example.
Yep.
And it's scary, right? Like, okay, I have my whole company that have employees that have to pay salaries, like, etc. And I'm going to rely my infrastructure on something that's a bunch of kids trying to build in the decentralized world of crypto. It's like, the shenanigans that happen. So the incentives usually for Web3 projects, they need to be usually monetarily on the demand side. For example, let's say you can store, like, storage is a decentralized storage, and they have a Amazon S3 compatible SDK, what that means is that I can use Amazon storage the exact same way I use Storj. The difference is that you're going to pay 9 cents per month per gigabyte on Amazon, and you're going to pay 0.004 cents, per month on Storj. So it's much cheaper. This company doesn't necessarily have, like, Storj doesn't have an infrastructure. It's like an Uber. But then people have like spare resources that you have a hard disk that has like, 2 terabytes. You're only using, for like some pictures and so gaming. This idle resource is already being connected to the internet anyway. Why don't you just like make some money from it, even if it's not a lot? Because I remember Storj, there was one point I was making like, $30 a month. That's not bad if you think for something that you already pay for half of your electricity maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with the phone, right? Yeah.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say to go a little bit back to the question of like how do they make money and stuff too, because that's a tricky part. like what Daniel's saying is like very true, because you're trying to tackle like global connectivity, and there's so much security that goes into being a telecom company. There's like physical security on the actual site itself, like on the physical site, but then you also have the network security, and you have like crazy SLAs, like service level agreements about downtime. So it is really hard to tackle that when you're a community or people powered network. But a lot of times they sort of have ways, and a lot of the structures that a lot of the DePIN projects have started using is they have a service provider arm, which is sometimes a different name from the actual like DAO based network or the foundation. So they'll like be Helium Foundation, right? But then there was Helium Mobile, and then they rebranded they created Nova Labs, and Nova Labs is actually like where they kind of do all the building, but then they have Helium Mobile as the brand, and you'll see this split so that they can basically commercialize part of what they're doing without necessarily capturing the whole network and saying, now we're only this. Like, you guys can keep building here, and if other people want to spin off other service provider arms, they can, but like, we're kind of the biggest main one because we were the OGs, we created it, and we're going to go sell it here. And then the questionable part is, and where you really need to do the DD is like, does the revenue from that service provider arm flow back into the foundation or the DAO or the community or whatever the structure is? And if not, that's where things get a little bit questionable, because then you're like, man, even if this thing takes off and they close like billion-dollar contracts, will that affect the token price? Like, does that flow back to me? So that flow between the node operators and sort of the company is actually very important. And it's very hard to track as well, because most of that data, just due to the nature of the business, is often not on chain, right? So one of the things that we're working on, and we've actually been talking to some like thought leaders in the space and some VCs, is how can we bring more of that data on chain, whether it's like token burning and minting, whether it's other ways of tracking revenue, so that we can make it a little bit more transparent and objective for everybody, because that really is like a key factor when assessing a project.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, and for example, like a couple of weeks ago, I was interviewing a project called Mapmetrics, and what they're trying to do is build a decentralized version of Google Maps for driving, for locations, for like coffee shops, etc. It's a project building on a DePIN focused blockchain called Peak. And when we were starting Hotspotty, like when actually Helium was very popular, just to have an idea, we were using Mapbox, which is like a mapping provider, just for showing the mapping on the website, because people don't think about how much that costs to actually display that when you're using it on a website. Because go to Google Maps, it's free. At one point, we were spending over $10,000 a month just on deploying this map, because we're using like a centralized project. And what they're doing, like Mapmetrics, like this cost, if I would use them, for example, would reduce probably from $10,000 to like $100, because like they have this decentralized way that people can actually use the idle resources that decrease the cost a lot. So yeah, I would say that projects that have this decentralized way can reduce the cost, because they're not expected to maintain very expensive hardware, especially when it's like a idle resource that we have at home anyway, right?
So one of the things, because I've encountered a couple of these projects in the real world once or twice, and there's obviously like a pretty big adoption curve to this kind of thing. If we talk about something that's like meant to be a competitor with something like Google Maps, for example, or what is it, Teleport, the one that was like a competitor to Uber, right?
Yeah.
So I've taken a Teleport before, and I talked to the driver, and he basically said it's not usable, but he's obsessed with the idea, so he's kind of like forcing himself to participate in it, but it's not practical, and it's not paying as well as the other ones, and it barely ever hits. So he really was only able to use it in a city like Austin when like there was a crypto conference. So I think you kind of have to, as like one of the early people, brace yourself for the impact of it being a bad experience. And like if I think about something that was to compete with Google Maps, like, listen, I am so down to like try something else, but if the map is like giving me bad ETAs or not accurately displaying traffic, like all these things are not things that I'm willing to give up when I don't see like an obvious benefit. So I'm curious, just because one of the comments that has come up a couple times is about the idea of profitability. And I feel like some of these DePIN projects that really want to participate in this try to cover that gap of income by selling us something expensive that's unnecessary, perhaps, when in fact, like you said, you know, a competitor to Google Maps or something would be great. I would love to experiment with it. I don't actually know off the top of my head. Like, if you look at the other, like Waze is probably one of the bigger competitors, right? That I've seen some people.
It's owned
use.
by Google. Yeah.
Is it? Did they buy it after the
Yeah,
fact?
they bought it.
Yeah, it was a
Okay.
$1 billion acquisition. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never, I just remember like when it first came out and seeing, you know, like just pictures, kind of like the Apple Maps thing, right? Like you put in your directions and it drives you into the middle of a lake or something like that.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So because you guys interview a lot of projects, and Michael, I wanted to give you a chance to talk a little bit more about like getting into the weeds when you're doing due diligence to like get something listed on DePIN Hub and that kind of stuff. I guess, you know, if I was to pull a question out of this concern, it's what kind of criteria would you guys say would be your biggest red? You mentioned a couple of red flags already, but like more red flags as to like, how are you disqualifying someone from like, okay, you are selling us something, like we could be using something else. Like we've got all this random stuff laying around the house, you know. I don't know. I struggle with this a lot because the idea is
Alex,
so cool.
can I
that
take
I'm
your
just
question a little further to say,
Yeah.
how are you aligning your incentives? Because you
That's a
guys
better way
could
to say
make
it. Thank
money
you.
on pretty much any of these projects because you probably have affiliate links, you probably get money from traffic. So
Sure.
how are you aligning your incentives with the users that are on your site who might be looking to make money from DePIN but have to do it different ways than you guys? Is that fair, Alex?
Yeah, no,
It
thank
sounded
you.
like where your concern was.
Yes.
I like it. These are hard questions with the music in the background. It has this sort of like game show vibe.
Listen, man, no, it's chill. We
But I-
trust you to give us a good answer. Otherwise, we
So-
wouldn't ask
Yeah.
you. You know,
It's
if we
to
thought you were
lull
full of crap,
people
we'd
into a false sense of security.
It's really- I
It's
mean,
hard questions.
Will's
Yeah.
there with all the swords in the background. I love like you have this kind of like Japanese samurai thing going on. It's very cool.
It's-
Daniel
it's
and I
really
used to do kung fu, so you know.
Oh,
we're on the
nice.
China side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's just Pokemon cards, and that's where it all started.
it's just vibes.
It's just vibes.
It's just vibes, bro. Okay.
It's really
I mean,
just because, sorry, Michael, it's really just because of the first conversation you and I had about this being just
I like
You
that.
know,
Yeah.
having to drive any Web3 narrative through
Mhm.
the obvious sea of initial bullshit that is always going to pop up to try to capitalize on something fresh,
Yeah.
like you said, that's hype based or that is trying
Yeah.
to lure people, like cutting through the noise to get to the reason that the niche or the narrative was founded or, you know, ordained in the first place. You know, that's the hard part, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I mean,
mean-
Daniel's the final kind of say on listing anyone on the platform. So he's probably the best person to ask the question. Like I get very involved in initial, sometimes just screening at a high level of like kind of what do you do, what's the project about. But then if they really want to go deep and get listed and be more involved with us, I usually hand them over to Daniel because he's sort of like the real mastermind of that. But well, yeah, so I'll let him go first, and then I'll talk a little bit more about our verified kind of program and some of our basic sort of like red flags and stuff that we look for. But I'm keen to hear Daniel's take on what
Yeah.
are like the deal breakers.
I mean, the Texas girl, I think if you're starting to mine a project that has DePIN in the name, that's a red flag to begin with.
I was
Right.
going to ask you about this, so feel free to speak to Texas Girl specifically because I was
Yeah.
looking that project up and I was like, oh.
I don't know them. I think I've heard about them. I saw them, but that's the kind of project that I stay away from it.
Why?
Projects, for example, that just focus 100% on the token and you're gonna make money, to install. Like there's so many projects right now that they're trying to leverage people's installing a Chrome plugin. That's extremely dangerous to begin with, right? Like then we can actually go to the part of like the bear market and security things that we wanted to talk about. But I think when I talk to a project, I try to understand how can this project actually is trying to build something valuable in the long term, and not just try to jump on the hype. I think that's like the first thing that I try to understand when I talk to the projects. I try to talk to the founders. A lot of me and Michael had a call once with a guy and like, oh, I don't know if you can talk to the founder because he's too important or something like that. Okay, that's already a massive
Red flag, yeah.
Like maybe I want to add the founders on LinkedIn. I want to see what they did, because the best DePIN projects that I see is people that actually don't come from Web3. Is a product, has a product that can be sold on Web2, essentially. And the way that they use Web3 is just to expand as this whatever they need super fast. Like GeoNet is a good example of that. I think, yeah, just trying to figure out like if it seems too good to make money too easily, that's probably something wrong with it, right?
Okay.
There was this project that I don't even want to name the project, but what they did was like they have like a Chrome plugin, and then this Chrome plugin was like the company name dash DePIN Hub. So basically what they were trying to do is like whenever someone looked for DePIN Hub, they find their app on Google App Store.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like, man, this is such a red flag. Like, why are people trying to do this? Because they're just like, okay, you go install this Chrome plugin, it's gonna start making a lot of money. It's a massive BS. And then I talked. They actually came to me, and they were asking to be listed on the platform. You know, like, first of all, no. Second of all, your name. I was like, come on, guys, look at this name. Like, this is not fair. Like, oh yeah, of course, no problem. I'm gonna talk to the team. And what they did, they changed to another DePIN company, DePIN project. You know, I was like, fuck, these guys are completely like wrong. Like, so I think basically trying to understand if this project actually trying to bring value and not just like leverage on like node sale, hardware sale, just for the sake of making money from that and then jumping on. Because it's too easy on crypto to take no responsibility for things, right? Especially if the founders are completely like degens and don't understand the problem they're trying to do, or sometimes they're even anonymous, you don't know who they are. It's too easy for the projects like extract liquidity and like, oh, it didn't work out, sorry. So trying to understand that. Like I said before, I really like projects that your solution is a Web2 solution that leverage Web3 to grow faster. I think it's a very important one for me as well.
On that point, I also wanted to ask, what has been the reaction from centralized monopoly competitors to the starting rise of DePIN? So you have, Render to Amazon Web Services. You have Helium to AT&T and Verizon, so on and so forth. So what's been the reaction from the megaliths in each of these industries as DePINs kind of come about? Are they investing in the space at all? Are they doing their own kind of thing that's going to make DePIN in certain categories built by Web3 startups not as viable? What's happening on that front?
I mean, like Render, I see Render and Helium are like massive projects, right? I think to the point that they don't even play that well with other projects as well, with smaller projects. Like they live in their own silos. They wouldn't even sometimes consider themselves like a DePIN because they're already trying to get their own user base or like a product market fit. Like you go to crypto conferences, Helium is never there anymore. Right, they were in the beginning. They just kind of became too big for that. The question you're asking about, like how they would take on the big guys,
like how the big guys are reacting at all?
Yeah, are they scared? Are they concerned? Are they even paying attention?
Are they talking to anybody?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Like on the Helium example, they can't build the network by themselves. So what they did, they partner with T-Mobile and with Movistar in Latin America. So they're actually working together with these big companies. I think like Render, for example, their main USP is that they're going to be like cheaper than using some other rendering company that's like centralized because they rely on people's servers. I think more and more people are going to start, being scared of that. I hope for the day when Google is going to start getting a bit concerned about map metrics, or Amazon S3 is going to start being concerned about storage, because it's so much cheaper to use, and we've been using for DePIN Hub for a while, and it works flawlessly. So there is no reason to use Amazon S3, for example, for data storage, unless you have an idea that it's not a good company, or your boss tells that you need to wear Amazon because you get like some crazy credits that you need to use or something like that. Changing infrastructure and DePIN, I like to say that's really hard. There's so many layers. Like you have the crypto aspect, sometimes you have the hardware, the physical. You need to, like, if you have a physical device, you need to deal with like manufacturing, shipping, fulfillment, tariffs, right? There's a lot of things that you don't need to worry about when you're working with DePIN. With DeFi. but it's something that I think is worth pursuing if you really want to change the status quo and how infrastructure is built, and being able to own a part of that. So a lot of like to your point, Alex, on the quality of things, I think a lot of times people use it because they're trying to be, of course, it's the early adopter reward thing that we talked before, but also because we want that thing to work. You really want it to succeed. The same thing, like I remember when I first started playing with Bitcoin in 2011, I had a friend who was a software developer, and it's like, okay, you pay me in Bitcoin, I give you 20% discount on the work that I'm doing because I just want people to start using Bitcoin. I remember he bought like a old, very, very old laptop that I had for 1.5 Bitcoin, and it was a pretty good deal right now
at the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times it's just like you really believe in this goal and you're just trying to make it work, right? So similar to like metrics is definitely a worse experience right now than Google Maps in a lot of ways, but you can see the team working and taking feedback from the people and feeling that you can be part of building something. Even though you're not part of the team, they have communities, and they don't really have like a Google Maps community. They have like just the people who rate places, right? So trying to build a world that you like to see.
Is anybody building the DePIN Wikipedia in a meaningful way? Because like that's an example of the kind of infrastructure I would love. Like, it sucks that people spend years of their lives totally for free building this incredible resource we all rely on, and that pretty much anybody could go in there, build a little trust, and then, slash it. There's no real way to hold people accountable. I mean, there are systems in place. I don't know. It seems to me like archives like that would be a natural example for a DAO structure or a DePIN network structure to make it better for everybody. Is anybody doing that?
I mean, there is Arweave. I don't know if you heard about them.
I'm hip to Arweave, but my understanding was that it's difficult to become like an active contributor, that they were more about the storage and less about like management and maintenance of information. Is that right?
I mean, yeah. So Arweave is it's a storage protocol, basically. The idea is that whenever you store something, you pay much more than you pay on Amazon, for example. But the idea is that the data that you're storing, you pay once, and that data is available for at least 100 years. So that's why it's like permanent storage. And I think one use case that could be very interesting is to have Web Archive going to Arweave, for example. Web Archive is this company that has been scraping the internet for like a lot of time, trying to maintain like a history of the internet. Like I can go to my website, I can type my domain name, I can see how my website used to look in 2005. And that's something that was like really interesting. And that would be a very good use case to start using decentralized storage for that instead of like a centralized. It's not only just for maintaining the data, but also, how like companies couldn't be able to like, okay, you have to take it down. There's like a lot of things that can help on that front. But yeah, I don't know any I remember there was a long time ago some like crypto like Wikipedia or knowledge base thing that people are trying to do, but I don't see anything right now. That's
I hadn't seen anything recently. I was curious about it, but there's something popping up literally all the time. So
I mean, and that's something cool about DePIN as well, right? It's not just one thing. It's just anything in terms of infrastructure that can be cool. For example, there's a project that we're very passionate about on DePIN Hubs called Mawari. They're doing augmented reality. So basically what they did is so basically what happens is that they see that augmented reality is going to become more and more and more part of the daily lives. Right now, it's very like, okay, you have to have this little big thing in your head, and it's very unique and takes a long time to set up.
Or Pokemon Go.
Or Pokemon Go, exactly. Or like Gran Turismo or something like that. Yeah, Pokemon Go is a good example. So what they did is spend 7 years building like a streaming technology that would allow you to process all the data on the internet and then stream that to your device. Because it's very different than you streaming a video than streaming like a 3D object on your screen. Because when you're streaming a video, it's just a video, right? It's the same thing. But if you're streaming like augmented reality, the angle that you are, if you look on the side, everything needs to be real time, very fast, and very low latency. So what this company did is like they built like think about like an MP3 codec to like compress the information that you've been transmitting to the augmented reality glasses. But then they realized after many years, I think they built this for like 7 years, and they got to a point that realized, okay, if I want to build this infrastructure to be used all around the world, I cannot rely on Amazon. So they naturally end up getting to the point that actually we need to have those devices being processing closer to the people's eyes. That's where they're using the glasses. And then they found out DePIN, and they realized, okay, there's like a perfect use case for this project. So basically, you have a spare, computer with a nice graphic card. And I'm running in my computer. Then Michael in his home is using like his virtual girlfriend with augmented reality. He can use my computer to process it, right?
Oh man, what a
interesting example. Interesting example.
What a wingman! What a
wingman!
I mean, this project is Japan. This project comes from Japan, so
That makes sense.
in Japan,
Sure.
virtual girlfriends is gonna be a very, very big market. So actually, it is a very
big
big demand, right?
Yeah, it's true. Actually, they lead the Japanese market leads the AR glasses usage of the entire world, which I don't think is that surprising. So
No,
that's
not
where
a
a lot of the
surprise.
adoption is.
Yeah,
I don't doubt it at all. That's very
And-
cool. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
and you've
Andy.
seen like you saw like Amazon like Meta glasses. So the thing like you have like the Quest headsets, etc. is just gonna be a temporary thing. There's a lot of companies just trying to like lightweight glasses, and they even foresee the next, I'd say, 10 years, the chances that you're gonna start using less computer monitor, it's very probable. It's gonna be like Minority Report kind of life.
Yeah,
Right.
I can't wait for that. Going into the grocery store and my shopping list just pops up overlaid with the perfect path to walk through the store. Little alerts that say, don't buy this brand. It's got gluten. You can't have that. Commercials even when I'm asleep.
Just the good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, just the good stuff. Okay, so we are hanging out with our friends Michael and Daniel at DePIN Hub. You can check out depinhub.io to learn more, see some of the projects that they've vetted. And if you've got a question, a suggestion, a good joke, a word of wisdom about decentralized physical infrastructure in the crypto space, this is your chance to ask it with our expert friends. We're going to have him back on the show, I think, for After Dark when we can get our whiskey going. But guys, as people roll in their last questions and we round up to do our sort of final thoughts, I just wanted to run this checklist by you in transition to say I've been taking notes, and it sounds like, to make the complex clear, a couple of the things we ought to look out for as we consider DePIN or a specific DePIN project. First of all, we like bring your own device, right? We like when people make it easy for you to participate in whatever network solution they're building. I heard you say if they have a product that Web 2 users can understand, that's another green flag, not just a Chrome plugin, an app, get rich quick kind of thing. If they lead with that, it's probably not going to make it. Especially if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And then I really like what I just heard you say. You guys kind of started with this, but you came back to it too. This idea of getting involved in something early, not because you have a huge expectation that you're going to retire off this token that you got for, letting somebody monitor your heart rate, but that here and there, piece by piece, by being part of building the future, you're going to not only earn a little reward from companies that are legitimate, you're going to be more tapped into this culture, so you'll be earlier to the next opportunity, but you might actually also be able to learn enough to spot those promising tokens, those promising companies, promising products and solutions from the stuff that's just crap. Do you have any other quick bullet point do's and don'ts for DePIN consumers or crypto investors that you would add to that list?
Can I throw
I
one
mean,
in
there's
there?
Yeah, throw one in there,
question.
Alex. Yeah.
So something that I'm obsessed with that I wish we saw more. I've talked about this a lot with gaming, but I think in DePIN it makes just as much sense. And I don't know. This is also a question because I'm not sure. Maybe you guys have heard of something that's doing this. I am hyper interested in projects that are launching in some ecosystem that don't feel like they need to make me a new token that I now also have to worry about, but that can give me native token rewards. So if a DePIN project is launching on Avalanche, I just want it to pay me an AVAX.
Give me Avalanche.
For whatever my thing is. Do you know of any that are focusing more on native token rewards versus like minting a new fungible And I mean
yeah,
specifically like a fungible token, not like, making an NFT to mark something or something like that.
Yeah, I mean there are very few projects that sometimes you can choose to get paid in fiat, or sorry, not fiat, in stables, for what you're doing. But that goes a lot. But that the problem that goes against the whole idea of like bootstrapping a network, right? Because a lot of times when the projects start, it's a seed phase, like a Series A maybe. They don't have that much funding to really deploy all the capital to people. So what they usually do is like they build this own token that it's theirs,
Right.
and then by making the project grow, they try to grow the project tokens. So for them, it's kind of like free, to bootstrap the network.
No, and I understand that for sure. That's
yeah.
Sorry, I totally know why people launch tokens to make money. That's an inherent problem with the standard token model, that we're using these things to fundraise, not necessarily to create lasting value. That's a major problem, industry wide. And I do know for a fact, because I've been on the fundraising side, again in the gaming space, that blockchain ecosystems specifically are hyper interested in more things that use their native tokens. So like when I talked to both Avalanche and actually DeFinity, they were both very interested in participating in grant-based funding for a startup project that used ICP and Avalanche as the native reward token. So I would, if you guys have those conversations with projects, I would encourage people to consider skipping the standard fundraise and looking for grant funding from an ecosystem in exchange for using their native token and giving more and more of their own holders extra utility with a token they already have.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if the project already has product market fit and has like a lot of like income from outside of crypto and wants to pay people, I think that would be beautiful to see, right? Like for
Absolutely.
I think Helium right now, for example, if you have the Helium mobile plan, you can get either paid or you can get free mobile data if you do some sort of task like mapping around. So sometimes you don't necessarily get
That's
fiat,
super cool.
but you don't have to pay your phone plan just by doing some tasks.
And cool. that's another kind of value, like a value exchange. If they have a service or can create value for you just by using their product, it doesn't have to be paying you with a token, paying you with money. Like that's extremely cool.
Yeah, exactly. Because Helium, they ask people to do mapping, right? Like just use your phone around our antennas to verify if the antenna signal is proper, and by that we're gonna get rewarded in a way that you don't even need to pay for your plan. So it's a very beautiful win-win,
Did you have anything else that you were going to add to that list of green flags, red flags that I didn't cover? And is there anything else that you wanted to overview as part of the platform or asks for people that we didn't get to highlight today?
I mean, I think one way that people do is like check DePIN Hub. We don't take responsibility for like the projects that are listed there because there are like, I don't know, 200 projects. We do our best to understand the project and only list projects that we see like a potential growth, and also projects that are that can bring real value to people and trying to build a real product. Like there was a lot of projects that we just took down, I understood the project.
The list got small.
And then, then I was like, okay, these guys no more. And then I just removed them from the platform. I think from the question that Alex asked before, I'm a hardware engineer. I'm like I'm not a crypto degen, even though I have these glasses. In the sense that I like to be able to sleep well at night. I get very angry with the way that the market was going with like all the KOL BS, like so much insider trading, to the point that every time I see like some KOL throwing like a contract address on Twitter, I just want to flick that guy. It's like scammer. And I think the DePIN has the potential to really try to clear and bring real utility to Web3. And I try to help that. So it's like, I guess, more a personal thing. Of course, we could try to be like super scammy and talk to projects as long as they pay us. We list them on DePIN Hub and things like that. But I think that goes beyond money, and it's a moral thing. And if I believe that DePINs actually can become something much bigger in the world and bring people around like third world countries that can actually benefit from like extra $100, That's per month. That's a much bigger value than actually just me trying to extract value. There's already too many people trying to do that in Web3.
Yeah.
So we try to be the good guys, at least do our best to help this space. And living in Portugal is not expensive, so I don't want to try to extract value from anyone and try to, and be able to enjoy the weekend at the beach without feeling that I'm scamming people. That I couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's the life.
Well, one thing that Alex says all the time is, guys, we'd be so rich if we were willing to do just a little bit of crime.
I will absolutely die on this.
Just a little bit of crime.
Yep. If only. Just a little.
Oh man. Okay, everybody, we're gonna go and do a round of final thoughts, last minute questions, suggestions, good jokes, and words of wisdom before we ride our dogs and ponies into the sunset. So if you've got one of those, leave it in the comments below, and don't forget that you can catch up with us where the show lives 24/7 on Discord at discord.gg/riseup, and of course the riseupmorningshow.com. We've got everything there for you. Links to Will's TA class. We've got the links to our socials, podcast platforms. The only thing missing is you. Will, I know you've got to go first, so I'm going to ask our guests to hold for another second. Daniel's got the glasses on again. I love it. Will you give us a final thought, my friend?
Hey there, normies.
I just had to rug you with a little sound.
I love that video so much. I'm so glad you clipped it. Insofar as DePIN is concerned, like, there's so many narratives in the crypto space that really stands zero chance of getting genuine adoption amongst a targeted audience, and that actually does something that provides value to the world. And some DePIN projects can do that. Say the word some specifically. But like DePIN has the opportunity to do that in some areas. And my favorite DePIN projects are the ones where you don't need to go out and buy any hardware. Whenever I see a project and it says, "Yo, you buy this thing," I immediately just throw it to the side and I just go, I don't give a crap about this project.
Yeah.
But if for people who have things laying around the house that can add, something to a network effect, then I go, okay, everybody has not everybody, but a huge portion of people have devices sitting around. Your target audience is so much bigger. There's an opportunity here for you to actually be a genuine business and actually make some revenue.
What's that?
Maybe. What's a genuine business? Yeah, with the glasses, that's even better. What's a genuine business with the glasses? That's perfect.
Sounds weird.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is just going back towards economics. If you guys weren't aware, China is standing on business with their tariffs, which means that at noon today, if they don't back down, you will have a 104% tariff against Chinese products coming into the United States, going into effect tomorrow. That is a doubling of cost of all products made in China, sold in the United States. You may not see those prices affect you at the shelf yet, because a lot of organizations have purchased over the past 3 months gigantic stockpiles of supply from suppliers at pre-tariff items. So you might not see that unless you are purchasing produce, because that you can't stockpile produce, it goes bad, or specialty items. So just FYI, be aware of that. Save a little bit of money where you can, everybody. But I got to go. I got to run. But Daniel, Michael, nice chatting with you guys. I'll see y'all later.
Nice chatting, Will.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Mr. Will Watson. Thank you very much.
You're a loser.
We'll see you later, brother. we did this video, because you guys don't know about it. We did this video the last time we were all together where Will was the snake oil salesman who approached Alex and I, who were the lay people investors who didn't know any better with a bad investment.
Is it too late to get in?
Yeah, is now a good time to buy?
And he was just like,
It's the perfect time to buy.
so it was a lot of fun. We clipped it and we have a lot of fun with it. Gentlemen, how about you? Alex, we'll go to our guests last. We'll honor them with the last final thought. Do you have a final thought, a question, suggestion, good joke, word of wisdom for the audience?
No, just this is an interesting conversation. Like I said, DePIN is one of those narratives that I'm really interested in, but honestly, the things that I love the most, I'm the most critical of. DePIN, DeFi, and DAOs in general are just like some of the coolest concepts and ideas, and we just have a long way to go. So I'm appreciative of platforms like you guys helping add some clarity to the bullshit and call out, grifts and stuff like that. It's definitely a service that is required. So I would thank you guys for coming on and say, hopefully if someone's interested in learning a little bit more about DePIN, they can check out the website and hopefully do a little bit more research in their journey. I'm I would echo what Will said. I'm really excited about things that can use, more native token stuff, devices, like you said, that are idle, or even just, other things that I can do, with devices that exist. The Demo's a great example. I know that car data gets used any instance. There's so many instances. This is why it's exciting. There's so many instances where data you generate just by living your life gets sold right out from under you, and you have no clue that it's happening. And you are producing so much value for so many companies on a regular basis, and they completely leave you out of the equation, even though none of it would work without you. None of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was exciting. I'm glad you guys were able to make it, and I look forward to having a whiskey with you on an after dark at some point in the future.
I love that.
Thanks, Alex.
Gentlemen, final thoughts, questions, suggestions, good jokes, words of wisdom. Maybe to inspire you, I'll let you know our friend Tori in the audience, very technical, says, I've never had the gumption to try anything DePIN. It always felt like too big of an ask, and it sparked a sort of conversation. Seems like I'd have to think about it all the time. My brain doesn't have the available RAM. Moist Mike said crypto takes up all my brain power. So, as you give your final thoughts, maybe you can give us some peace about how easy it can be.
I mean, I think subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, whatever, anywhere you're going to go, or even YouTube. I talk to so many founders every week, and I try to make it very simple for everyone to understand. So you can go to blog and then podcast on
Beautiful.
the website. And you can see how many episodes we already have. Tomorrow and Thursday, we're going to release the 70th episode. And
Awesome. Way to go, guys. Congratulations.
And everyone is just the founder directly one-on-one, basically trying to understand. So if you're curious about a project in general, chances that I already spoke with them, or if not, just let me know and I would have an episode with them. There's so many cool projects, like Divine. I like to say it's trying to use blockchain and wine, and DePIN as well. Super cool project. And I try to make it very easy for you while you're doing the dishes, learning about different DePIN projects. A lot of times, if you find interesting, then you can get involved with that project. Hopefully that's going to also bring some rewards, right? Like Silencio, for example, is a good one that all you need is your phone, and then you're trying to map noise data around the world. It's a project that's getting a lot of traction. Also being built in Peak blockchain, which is this DePIN focused blockchain, which is quite interesting take as well. And yeah, I mean, I think you just check DePIN Hub in general. We are very approachable. If you join our Discord, you can always ask questions there. We're just trying to always bring opportunities to people, because like Michael always says, being early can mean opportunity. So just make sure to join and be part of this community.
Awesome. Thank you. Michael, final thought, question, suggestion, good joke, word of wisdom for the audience?
Oh man, I wish I had a joke. I should have been spending some time looking up jokes on the side, so it just sounded like I had them at the ready.
Very few people have jokes at the ready, and I'm always sad because I'm ready to go with my.
I can have a joke, Michael. Your portfolio.
Oh!
Oh man, but that joke applies to everyone right now. Actually, joke's on you because I have almost no crypto anymore in my portfolio. but actually, the joke's still on me because stocks are even worse. But so invest in ideas, business ideas that generate real value, that have solid fundamentals. Invest in yourself. Invest in your education. Listen to Warren Buffett. I lived in Omaha. Got a little bit of that Midwest mentality. But but how that pertains back to crypto and stuff is, always do your own research. Do not rely on us. We are not financial advisors. We are not your shepherds, but we are doing the best we can to try to help you streamline and shortcut a little bit of that process. We have a verified program on DePIN Hub as well. So if you go to the website and you see purple badges on some of the projects, those are the projects that have been extra transparent and actually did a deep dive due diligence with us, 20 questions that goes into stuff that we talked about today, how could you make this into a $100 million revenue business? So it actually forces them to think, where is the long-term money coming from? What is the vision? How do you take this to market? All stuff about the team. Do you actually have relevant credentials for the industry that you're in? Your fundraising, have you raised funds besides just trying to sell your hardware, et cetera, et cetera? Those are special projects. So that's one of the many ways we're trying to help everybody out. So at least I can shortcut things a little bit. But again, we cannot promise anything. And there's always risk, lots of risk involved in crypto. But if you are looking to generate more passive income in DePIN, check out the node section as well. There's a really cool node. We can't call it a node sale. They're not calling it that because they don't like the name, but a decentralized infrastructure offering that will be dropping in a month.
Oh my God.
For a project that's actually doing something super cool that we actually do believe in, that has patents and like a whole bunch of big customers already lined up. So I actually think it's going to be a really cool node offering. So if you want to get involved and grab one of those, we can run them for you. So all you have to do is click about 3 times and you'll start generating passive income. So check that out. And thank you guys so much for having us. It was fun. It was actually a lot of fun.
It was actually a lot of fun. He said, "Don't worry, the check's in the mail." We appreciate you.
That's
guys.
why we're here.
Yeah, we really appreciate you guys coming and answering. Sometimes we ask difficult questions, right, Al?
I try to.
But we wouldn't have had you here
softballs.
if we didn't think you had some real substance to give the audience. And I would encourage everybody to check out everything they're doing over there at DePIN Hub. You really can. We joke about it. Make a lot of returns by investing in yourself, investing in your knowledge. It's the 1000x investment every single time.
That's definitely the best investment. Yeah.
Yeah. So we will definitely have you guys back for an After Dark episode. But to our friends here, let me say, for now, my friends, goodbye. Don't forget, jump in the Discord, discord.gg/riseup, and check out all of our resources at the riseupmorningshow.com. Then come back tomorrow. We'll be here live Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. Central. And for Rise Up After Dark, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Tomorrow, we've got a couple more friends lined up. Who do we have in the morning? It's already, we got Bread in the morning from Mega ETH is coming by to talk about what they're building to scale Ethereum. And on After Dark, we've got our friends from Uptrade, George and Sam, just to give their takes on what it's like working for the man, working for a broker, trying to guide people through the crypto space. And of course, we'll give you our updated takes on everything happening and answering your crypto questions. So thank you for being the very best part of what we do, everybody. Until next time, my friends, stay safe, be well. Everybody, rise up.
Let's go.